nowadays, like nobody picks up the phone to anybody anymore. Everything's just text message or email. So that human to human connection has just completely disappeared. And we get really knocked off with people, as in potential and prospective clients, when they don't want to spend like thousands of pounds with you when you've quoted it on an email with no human connection, with no voice involved, with no video message or anything like that.
Hey everybody, Chris G here. It's the Hard Hat, the CEO, and I'm doing a few things differently today, and we're going to stretch our minds and come up with different ideas. First off, I have a dual guest, Jo and Vicky. Now, Jo and Vicky, they're with the Canine Business Academy. Yes, I said canine as in dogs. And you're thinking, what in the world? Well, I'll tell you what, it's all the same game, just different players. And my players have not only humans, but they also have some four-legged friends. And then also in the fact that they're over across the pond, they're in, I guess, England, right? Is that right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right. Please help me welcome Jo and Vicky. How you guys?
Thanks for having us. We're super excited about this one.
Yeah, what a lovely warm welcome.
Well, I hope my accent is as intriguing to you as yours is to me. So
we love it. We love it. It's incredible.
All right. So give me a little bit about you guys before we get deep into the business side of things. How'd y'all meet and what made you pick this niche?
Niche. Oh, niche always makes us laugh.
You have to say niche when you're on this side of the pond, but we're gonna.
Pardon me. All right, niche.
It's all right. We'll blend. We will do a niche. So I like telling this story because I romanticize it a little bit and go, it's like a cheesy rom-com movie where we were two separate dog trainers doing our own thing for several years, and then one day I was reaching out. Yes, exactly. One day I was just reaching out to see who else was in the area, really. So I could just, you just try and get to know people and try and do some collaborative stuff. And I'm sure we'll get into, but networking. And I'm sure we'll get into this as the episode goes on. But not many people like other people coming into your business space. We get a little bit protective, don't we? And we're like, stay away, everybody. But Vicky didn't do that, which was lovely. And then when we'd exchanged a few emails, and then I went to go and visit her running a puppy class, and it was love at first sight. And we were like, oh my God, we're going to be like best friends forever. And then we started going for coffee and just, I don't know, we just got on really well. And the rest, so they say, is history. And Canine Business Academy was born probably within the following 12 months. And now that business is a global business helping dog professionals grow and scale their business to multi-six figures.
Well, before, some of my listeners might not know this, but before it was Hard Hat the CEO, by podcast we call it a Titan's Tale, and I would call that a Titan's Tale indeed. So that is awesome. So you guys are close by. I mean, within driving distance, obviously, I guess.
Yeah, we're about 30 minutes apart.
Oh, that's nice. And let's see here. In a way, you can collaborate. Excuse me. So, was that hard to do?
Not really, was it? Not for us.
What, to actually form the business, or?
Well, just to work together. You've been your own boss. I'm like I said, we're tied this into, in my case, construction crews and stuff like that. So if you merged with a company, if a guy was trying to bring on, let's say he bought another business. In this case, so he's a contractor, and he bought a roofing business to make it part of his group. There's some stuff you had to get together and work out, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to, just like right now, we're going to decide who's going to talk first, Vicky or Jo. And, it's just, you all have to have an agreement, some understanding. Was that something simple? And is that why it took 12 months, or just one day y'all decided that this needs to happen and made it pretty simple?
Well, I think we're really lucky in that we have a really nice flow between us. Like, we've got strengths in different areas, and we recognized it really early on. And we kind of just fell into these roles of, you're really good at that, I'm really good at this. And also learning to grow within that kind of partnership as well. And putting something we do a lot is putting ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And I feel like I've stretched myself so much in the last 18 months or so. Never thought I would. And it has enabled me to see all the awesome things on the other side of it. And so effectively, I don't know how much you know about personality profiles, but we cross over on some of it. And then in other ways, like Jo is, you might be best explaining this, Jo, because you know more about personality profiles than I do, but she's kind of a go-getter doer, doesn't need a lot of detail. She's runs with something and it happens straight away. And I'm more of I need to just process this first. I need to make sure it's right for us both. I need to like just do a little bit of the safety stuff. And so when we did first start, I remember that I just felt like Jo was 100 miles ahead of me all the time with everything. And I did struggle a little bit. And there was, you know, kind of that push and pull and trying to work out our positions and our places and things like that. But what's happened is that I have managed to catch her up on a lot of things, and I make decisions a lot quicker than I used to. And she has actually slowed down for some of the things that she's gone, actually, maybe that was too quick a decision before, and we need to just think about it and talk about it because we're a partnership in everything we do. So it's right for the business. And we're so lucky to have each other because it means we can bat ideas back and forth and go like, this is my perspective from somebody who needs that little bit of safety or needs a bit more detail. And Jo's the sort of person where she would be that client that just goes straight in and can receive the information and do something with it. So I feel like we've been really lucky, to be fair. And when we do things like this, we know our roles on a podcast like this, and we know who's going to talk about what bit, and it kind of works really well. So I think that to answer your question, really, it's been a lot of growth work. It's been a lot of kind of discovering who you are and looking inwards, but it's also been, we've lent in on those strengths that we've got, and we've allowed that to be the case.
We talked about the profile ideas in some past episodes about using that to actually hire people, create your team and so forth. That way you can identify those. Are you using, Jo, are you using DISC? DISC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just took it, I guess, a year ago, and I'm a DIC. And yeah,
you're a dick then.
Ooh, yes, I am. Never thought about that. I've been called other things too, but anyway, yes, I am. And I've obviously, if no people don't understand this, you got to be those. There's 4 letters, excuse me, and to be above average. And there's nothing special about me, but to be above average, you got to have score. And that's where you get your letters from. And doesn't make anybody any better or any worse. But I'm guessing, Jo, you were a D.
Yeah.
And
So interestingly, when I took the test, I actually score higher on an I first. So I'm ID.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Vicky is IS.
IS. Okay. Well, those who don't understand that, D and S's are opposites. But that's opposites are good because she has some perspective that I might not have. And I's are more, what kind of, I don't mean, we're all friendly. Everybody has all letters in you, just some are more prominent than others. But Vicky, you're say I, so you, or excuse me, S. And Jo, you're an I, so you're more friendly or outgoing. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I think because we both lead with the I's. And I think that's where it works really well, because we are able to not only have this crazy relationship between the pair of us, but then also we love connecting with other people. It's why we do our own podcasts. It's why we're wanting to like jump on as many as we can and just be like, hi, amazing people in the world. Like, this is incredible. And certainly from a business perspective, it means that we can lean into doing sales with integrity, so we can reach out to people and have conversations. And then leaning into that D and S bit, that also shows up beautifully in that sales funnel when you're talking to prospective clients, because Vicky will have that skill set to be able to connect with somebody on a level that I just can't understand, because I'm like, it's like why would you not want to do that? It's at an amazing price. I can do it now. Why do you not want it? And Vicky's like, they might just not be ready, Jo. Like, it's like, give them time. I'm like, how much time? I don't understand. Why
I
can you
don't
not just do
understand.
it?
I have a virtual assistant who is definitely an S, and I call her out every now and then because she knows I do. And Christine has perspectives that I don't understand sometimes, but she also makes me think ways I wouldn't have otherwise, and that's important.
Yep.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You guys, y'all train dog trainers in their businesses. You talk about helping them make more money, get more time freedom, that type of thing. We talk about that same here with going from hard hat to CEO. What are some of your strategies or things that you actually, what's the first thing you do with a client, I guess? Get them out of their heads or help them save money? What's kind of a process?
Oh, it's kind of like a two-pronged attack, isn't it? So we look at it and go a parallel journey that someone needs to take. And funnily enough, this kind of falls in nicely with that profiling bit as well, because I will lean in and go, I want you to make money so that you can live and so that you can serve your clients better. Because if you're earning more money, you've got more time to give to that client, in my opinion, and in Vicky's. And on the flip side to that, you also need to hit pause. And I realized when I start talking on other people's podcasts just how many dog puns there are in business. It's like, we're gonna hit pause right now. And you want to identify the real reason that you're doing this business. And then that's the bit that Vicky absolutely loves, because it's that purpose bit. It's that connecting with people on that next layer. And that is important to me too, as is the sales important to Vicky. But because we drive at it from different angles, we believe that both absolutely need to happen at the same time, which is hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's hard. I was going to say something profound, and now I forgot it.
Always the way.
I know it. Vicky, do you find it hard? Meaning that my wife would be very much like yourself, where she talks about she wears her heart on her sleeve, and she tells me I have no heart, which is fine. And we that's probably why we get along so well. But the question is, I would have a hard time understanding some of that, but not that S's can't be business owners. But is it hard sometimes to bring some of that stuff out because they have to be more, I don't want to say proactive, more assertive? That you have clients like that you say, man, you just got to step up. And it's not that they're stepping down, but you got to avert yourself, bring some of those other letters out of yourself and make some decisions.
Yeah, well, really interestingly, I ran my own dog training business for about 14 years before Jo and I merged. We merged the dog training business together and created Canine Business Academy all around the same time. So we had a lot. Before that, I never, and we only recently did a podcast episode on this, I never really saw myself as a business owner. Like, I never would have even thought the word CEO would ever enter my brain. I'm like, no, I'm just a dog trainer that happens to run a business. And I actually think now that the business ran me rather than the other way around. And now we've created Canine Business Academy. Now we're running everything properly. And I've learned all these new skills. I feel like I am a CEO and I am this like business owner that kicks ass and does all this stuff. And it's like empowered me so much that I'm like, how did I do that for so long and not like own it, like own the ownership of the business? And like I said, it was a recent thing that I'd actually just, as we were talking on a podcast, I was like, oh my God, this epiphany moment of like, that is how I viewed myself, as literally being run by my own business and not the other way around. So I feel so good in so many ways because our purpose and mission with Canine Business Academy is so strong. Plus the fact that I feel like I'm leading it from the front now and not just kind of like taking up the rear like I used to. So it's really nice.
When before we started, everybody, we had a little chat here and I started recording. And when my assistants gave me some information on Jo and Vicky, I thought, well, what are we going to talk about? And so and I thought about this question, and I need to ask it just because. So when y'all are training some of your clients, do you use any of your dog training techniques on them? And I don't mean that. I like to train hunting dogs. Okay, and I find women are easier to train, in my opinion, or as far as because they're not as hard headed as the males. Now, I'm no dog expert by no means, like you ladies, but the point being is that we're all at some point hard headed, and you have to show some people how it can benefit them, or what you wanted to do, or what or why you have to do it. Do you do any of those tactics?
I'll take this because I actually apply the dog training skills to my parenting role. So I've got
Okay,
two
fair
young
enough.
boys. I've got
Uh-huh.
a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I am outnumbered in my home. I've got my husband and the two boys, and I've got 2 huskies as well, but 1 male, 1 female. But I'm
Now,
totally outnumbered.
you don't carry around a little treat bag, do you? And give them treats as they.
Not quite, no.
Okay,
So
okay.
certainly the way that Vicky and I train in the training business is very much about understanding the psychology and like why an animal or why essentially a human would behave the way that they do. So it's really understanding how the brain works and which response you're going to do. So it's very psychological. It's a lot of detail. So I apply that same kind of learning to the kids and in turn to every single person that we encounter, because when you are able to stop for a moment and just ask the question of what is it you're struggling with, whether that's my 3-year-old having a tantrum that's been 40 minutes and I'm really trying to keep my cool and not lose my rag at him and scream and shout, versus when I'm working with a client that to me in my D profile is incredibly infuriating when they're going, I'm not making any money, I'm not making any money. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And like, oh, I'm thinking about doing a social media post. And I'm like, oh God, like just pick up the phone and call somebody.
And then, can I just say, and then I get a voice note about this person. They're driving me up the wall.
You got to vent to somebody. That's right.
Yeah,
That's where
this
your
is it.
partners
Yeah.
come in.
It's what I'm here for.
That's right.
But you do, but all of those skills of dog training, I stand by that they have set me up for, because I never went into dog training initially. I've been doing it for 10 years, but my whole background was working in marketing essentially and ad agency stuff. And the skill of working an animal that doesn't speak human, that you really have to try and understand what they're trying to tell you, and having that patience and having that ability to just, like slow down is definitely a transferable skill that literally helps you in any walk of life, whether you're a business owner, dealing with clients, whether you're a dog trainer, because arguably you're dealing with people more than the dogs.
Yeah.
Versus a parent.
I think of the guy that's on YouTube, or I guess the pet show channel or whatever it is, and he's always doing that. But you got to learn. You're training the trainer more so than you're training the dog, is what he's talked about. But Vicky, I want to go back to you for a minute. You mentioned you thought the job was your company was running you more so than you run the company.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a hard change to make, or did you have fears by making that switch? Because we're talking about hard hats in my business, where we're going to go from swinging the hammer or doing whatever to actually being the CEO and then letting other people do their thing. Was that difficult?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it as you were saying it then. Yes, it was hard to let it go. And in those early days, Jo will attest to the fact that I did struggle with change because we merged the business. There were certain things I had to let go of. There were certain things I had to do differently. I got very attached to some of the owners that came along with us and transferred over to the joint business. And I was just like, oh, but this is me with the S bit coming back in, like, oh, but them, and how are they going to feel and how are they going to cope with it? And Jo was just like, they'll be fine with it. And I'm like, but how do you know? And there was all that kind of stuff. And then, do you know what? Once I'd actually looked at it through a different lens and go like, they're not actually that bothered. I know they're not that bothered. Why am I hanging on to these things? And the minute I just cut these kind of almost like these ties that were like binding me free, I was like, do you know what? Like, it's all fine. And then I just ran with it, and that empowerment bit kicked in. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to look back. And now, actually, even like 2 years ago, there's no way I'd be in that position again. Never, ever let it get to that point. And this is where it's really nice for me to relate to those people who are fearing change and worried to do the next step. And what if this, what if that? And I'm like, I was you. I know exactly how you feel. And that's that relatable bit, which which our clients really, really love. So yeah, and you also get people that come on board to dog training in a very similar way to Jo. So my background is rescue. I used to work in like shelters, and I had a real passion to prevent problems in dogs. So I started puppy classes first, trying to do all the stuff to go like, we don't want that dog to end up in rescue, and if it does, it's going to be more rehomable. So I'd got that passion piece right from a very young age, whereas Jo would come in with her business hat on and went, I want to be a dog trainer. How am I going to do this so it works for me, it works for my family, it works for the client? And I just wasn't thinking like that. I was just led by what everybody else did in our industry, offered the same services at a very low cost, and had no idea how to do anything differently. And then the minute I learned how to do things differently, I was like, that's when I'm never looking back again. How did I do that for so long? So yes and no is the real answer. Yes, it was a struggle to let go. The minute I realized it was good for me, it was easy, and I didn't look back.
Jo, during that transition, did y'all lose any clients?
No, I don't think we did we?
No, I
If
don't think so.
anything, we started gaining more, which was interesting because at the time, Canine Business Academy had not long launched, and that it grew so quickly. Like within 12 weeks, we were already global. We were already at capacity with our one-to-one clients. And we literally just merged the dog training business, thinking at least that's a business that can tick us over whilst CBA grew. And then we had two businesses just flourishing all at once. And for some reason, during that period as well, we decided that it would be an awesome idea to write a book
in 6 weeks.
In 6 week period.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least you gave yourself a deadline.
Yeah.
Books are important, especially
yeah.
promote yourself.
Actually, we just kind of took everybody on, and I think we were just so in the zone of delivering such a quality service to everybody that came through the door, knowing when to say no and knowing who it was right to take on. And both businesses just flourished, and to the point now where we actually don't take as many on in the dog training business. We can be really choosy with who we want to work with, because actually Canine Business Academy has grown so much we can't physically run those two businesses the same way that we were.
You have a team.
Sort of.
So I was just about to say sort of.
Unofficially.
In the process of growing.
You're in the process. That's our next big step. In my blueprint, we talk about, you get that time freedom. Now we got to get that team in place to get you more time freedom so we can focus on some other things.
Yeah.
So I know you're global, so obviously you're virtual, you don't have clients. Is most of your stuff online?
Yeah.
You do I know you do one-on-ones. Do you have other trainings, like recordings?
Yeah. So our business model that we like, I think it's really common in the coaching space, and I think there's elements that could potentially be transferable over into most other industries, but we always believe in like just lead with one product and service that becomes your bread and butter. It becomes the thing that you are really well known for. And for us, that was that one-to-one until we reached capacity. And then we launched it was an online program. It's a group coaching program with pre-recorded videos and live delivery. And now that has become our signature program, with one-to-one now bumping to the top of the hierarchy, if you will. And that's our most expensive offer, whereas before it was the only offer and it was a lot less. Yeah. We've now kind of reversed it and gone, we've got to switch it to one-to-many versus one-on-one.
You teach how to make more money. What are some tactics, or how do you find ways, or tell your people the ways to find more money? Is it through sales, through cost, through both? And
yes.
I'm trying to take those topics that you have, and then we're going to put them back into the construction world.
Yeah. So the way we tend to do this in what we teach as a bit of a core thing, but we're always really flexible with how it's done. If we want to be truly customer centric, we have to think about the services we're offering for clients. So this is dog owners. And a lot of the time, because we're scratting, dog trainers are scratting around for typically here, dog training sessions for 1 hour, like a one-to-one training session, can cost between £30, like £30 to £60 typically. And to make decent money, you need a hell of a lot of those. And also, is one session for 1 hour really going to change somebody's life with a huge, great big problem with their dog? And the way we kind of get people to think about it is go like, if that was you and you were offered 1 hour with somebody to go like, here you go, here's everything I know, it's an hour, now you go on, get on with it by yourself, would that solve the problem? And invariably, everyone comes to the conclusion, no, it won't solve the problem. We know it takes longer than that, depending on the methodology that we use. We're not getting into that kind of debate now, but sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's not as quick. So we have to go like, what does it look like for the client to be able to solve that problem, and how long is that time frame likely to be? Therefore, we kind of put sessions together as a program or a package, and therefore that serves the client. That then means that you get more money for that service and everybody's happy. So it's one of the ways that we tend to get people to think about that, is putting these things together as a program or as a package, so that it's a win for you and a win for the client, because we're all about the win for you, win for client, win for the universe. And that's how business should be. Whereas with many trainers, it's a win for the client. I wouldn't even say it's a win for the client. It's definitely a lose for the trainer, because they're not being paid enough for it. And it's probably a lose for the client because they're not getting the result that they want.
Basically changing up some options, gives them options that make them more money and serve the client a little better.
Yeah, and it's all with integrity. Yeah, because you wouldn't want to sell something to somebody that they don't need. But invariably, dogs are sentient beings, and there are things that crop up all the time. So when we get somebody call us and say, my dog won't come back off the lead, when you talk to somebody, when you ask the right questions, you invariably find there's a lot more to it than that. There's actually the dog's pulling on the lead, the dog jumps up people, the dog doesn't settle in a public space, and the bit where the dog doesn't come back is a tiny part of it. So you can easily build out like a duration with somebody that might be weeks, it might be months, and therefore that person gets to work through all of those issues, and it changes their life and it changes your life as well, because you've been instrumental in supporting them with that problem or problems.
And I'm going to add to that I think the transferable bit to your audience is having a product or service that is, and I'm going to say the American way of doing it, if you niche down, if you actually have that area of expertise that you become really well known for and become that specialist in that area, you already can command a higher investment from somebody else, because you are that expert. You are absolutely that person that somebody is going to go for that specific thing. And I think a lot of businesses really struggle with the idea of niching, because you've got to, it's that fear of actually, I'm kind of talking to less people, and less people are going to want to buy from me. And I need to be this general practitioner where I'm just going to attract anyone and everyone. And it doesn't work. And we actually had somebody from a construction training company in the UK come on our podcast to talk about, because they essentially do what we do but for construction people, so kind of like sales. And it was just a really interesting conversation to go, it's exactly the same in both industries. Both industries are full of toxicity, with people moaning about somebody else and they're not very good and you're not very good. And it's all this negative talk instead of really trying to build one another up. This underhand thing of just trying to undercut somebody so you win the work, doing shoddy jobs for
it's not
and
good.
It's everywhere. So I think when you command that space and you become the specialist in that area, putting the client first, like Vicky's just talked about, that's when you can command that higher price point. And as time goes on, you have the choice to expand your business and offer different types of services if you suddenly get bored with that particular specialism, or you just do little offshoots of it.
Earlier, you mentioned, Jo, that you were in marketing before.
Yes.
So how did you take that history, I guess, or your expertise there and incorporate it into the business now? What kind of strategies are you using to promote
all about bringing it back to being client centric and truly understanding who it is you are talking to. What are their pain points? And I always try and think about this when because I'm always really mindful of other people's audiences when we're doing these things. And if I cast my mind back to when the house I'm in now, it was an 1850s cottage. It sounds very British, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
an
it
1850s
does.
cottage.
With your cup of tea.
With my cup of tea. My mug of tea, my plant pot size tea. And we needed, we've done a massive renovation on it. It was like a 2 double-story extension with a single wraparound as well. And we were looking for somebody that was going to be able to come in and create our vision with us and for us. And you almost start looking at it from the journey of going, if somebody had highlighted me, I mean, not me specifically, but me as in like a client avatar, you could wrap around so many services in that and go, well, she's a busy professional. At the time I was pregnant as well. She's a busy professional. She's got a lot going on. She's got a house full of dogs, because I was still very heavily into dog training and had loads of people staying. People had loads of dogs staying with me. I needed someone who could almost do the architecture work for me, like draw up the plans, work alongside the builder instead of me having to organize those two things separately. And that could have been an incredible package offering to go, do you know, we're going to cover everything. So even if you don't offer it yourself, that collaboration with another competitor, if you will, or somebody that enhances your service is beautiful. So the skills I kind of adopted from that marketing role of 14 years was listening to the client and pulling together everything that can make it such a seamless offering for them. Because I was in the agency world where I was the cog in the machine that had access to all of these different departments, from copy to artwork to print to whatever it was they needed, essentially. And I was the glue that brought everything together. So maintaining that awareness in the business role to go, it's not about just sticking an advert out there. It's about connecting all the dots together so that it runs as flawlessly as it possibly can.
I was talking about a team earlier when this came into my head. Do you guys have systems in place? Or what type of systems do you use to? It's a little different because, as a contractor, you might have a estimating system, you might have a sales system. Do you have systems that you use that you would recommend I don't want to say recommend, that other people need, no matter if you're in a dog business or the contracting business or the restaurant business for that matter? You do follow-ups and stuff like that, or in your sales, or who's in
Yeah.
charge of sales? That's a good question.
We both are, really.
Yeah.
I think I probably naturally focus on it more in terms of, I talk about it all the time, but we're both equal in terms of getting the sales in and the delivery of it. It's just I like talking sales because it's a very D thing to do, isn't it? It's like, what can we do? What's the action we can take here?
More sales.
Well, yeah,
Always
it's like
sales.
it's like, it's a business at the end of the day, isn't it? It's like,
Yes,
and
it
actually
is.
we look at it and go, well, we get to serve more people if we sell more, so we get to do the thing we love more often. So it shouldn't have that icky connotation to it, which a lot of people will have.
No, I mean, if you're taking care of people, that's the idea. You're trading that value for income, and everybody needs income. That's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
And we talk about ways of accommodating clients and make sure that they, people ask me, that's why I won't talk you out of something that you want unless I feel very strongly that it's not the way you want to go. We do a lot of barns and stables and so forth, and we'll talk about horses and I'll give other ideas I've seen at other horse barns, and they'll say, well, I want to do this. Well, here's something to think about why you wouldn't want to do that. So you're giving input to your clients, I assume, the same way. It's like, hey, this may not be what you want, and here's why. But then sometimes you just gotta get back and just let it happen. I think just that's what you want, and I'm not going to talk you out of it. If that's what you and you have the funds to do it, then here we go. We're going to go down that path. But just think about this, and I've convinced a lot of people of changing their mind or getting what they still want, but a different way.
Yeah,
and that's important too.
It is, and I think that in the space that we're in, it's not hugely flooded with other people in the dog training niche.
Yeah.
So saying it like that. Niche. I'm going to say it in this way. Niche.
Niche is fine. That's how it's supposed to be pronounced anyway. I just can't read right. So
No, you all say niche. You Americans all say niche.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like I think we do pride ourselves in very similarly to what you've just described there, and saying like we're not here to make anybody do anything, and anything they don't want to do, definitely, but we are there to always consider their needs and consider their own experiences on why they've come to that conclusion. Or like we do a lot of mindset work with people. And the looking inwards part is integral to everything, isn't it? Because if you don't do the work on yourself and you don't discover why you've got those limiting beliefs maybe, or that closed mindset about something, then you can't open up your mind to those other possibilities. And you know, I would say that I was always a person who had a kind of open mindset, but actually I didn't in my business. Like there were loads of things where I was just like, no, blinkers on, like there's nothing else I can do here, until somebody takes you through that process and helps you, like asks you the right questions. So you actually have to give an answer, and you have to like discover where those feelings and thoughts come from. Are they really your feelings and thoughts, or are they your husband's, wives, friends, like other peers in the industry? Like where does it come from? So I think there's not many other people that are doing what we're doing that go through that process and really want the best out of each person individually that we work with. Even if it's a group program, we're still trying to get everybody to do the thing that's right for them, and not just like this business in a box, you know, pull it off a shelf, do the thing, like cookie cutter. Like that is not what we want for people at all. But like you say, we will say this kind of thing tends to work. This kind of thing is successful. So if we're looking at niching, if we're looking at like messaging and marketing, those are the kinds of things that are going to land with your clients better. So how can we do that in a way whereby it suits you and it works for everybody as well?
Before we go, as the Business Academy, and this is for everybody, but in what the people you see, what is their biggest challenges that you have to get them out of the? Is it like the fact that they're doing the work themselves, and we need to get them into the mindset of being a business owner, or are you some other roadblocks that you find that you have to overcome just to get them in the right mindset?
That's a brilliant question.
It's a brilliant question. I think that is a massive part of it, that awareness of being a business owner. And I think the really impactful one, which comes up time and time again, is this fear block. Whether it's fear of I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified enough, I'm too scared to see what somebody else is going to say about me. If I put that post of my work on social media, other like trainers, like competitors or colleagues, however you want to look at it, they're going to potentially tear me down. And you almost end up in competition with the same people. Like it's the same people in your industry doing the same thing, but this fear is so deeply ingrained that you just don't want to put yourself out there, and it's really holding everybody back. And I will link that into sales as well, because that fear bit of, and maybe it's even like a society thing now, like nowadays, like nobody picks up the phone to anybody anymore. Everything's just text message or email. So that human to human connection has just completely disappeared. And we get really knocked off with people, as in potential and prospective clients, when they don't want to spend like thousands of pounds with you when you've quoted it on an email with no human connection, with no voice involved, with no video message or anything like that. But it all comes back down to that lack of confidence of what somebody else is going to say and what somebody else is going to think.
Gotcha. I do have one last question before we wrap this up. Have you ever had a client that it becomes clear that they need to stay as the trainer and the business owner, but hire somebody to run it for them instead of? Does that make sense what I'm saying? I mean, not everybody can run a business, but and not everybody can train a dog either. But you know, I love starting businesses and hiring people. I'm in the process of hiring an office manager now that I want to turn that one over to. And I want to focus more on my business coaching. I've got other businesses that I turn over to other people and let them manage it, and I get reports, and so forth. In your case, and I'm sure I have contractors who are much better framers than they would ever be as a business owner, even though they're considered a business owner, that they know and realize they have to hire somebody to run it for them, and they can do what they do best and so forth. You ever had that happen to you?
I think that's actually a really common thing, but I think
Is it hard to sell to them? Do people realize that?
I don't think people do realize it. I think they think the only option is to do it themselves and hate it, or just give up and go and get an air quote proper job. Like, I'm just going to go and get an employed job instead. But we see it a lot, don't we? In fact, Vic and I were having this conversation the other day. There's a few people that I could already, like, names are coming into my head from, like, you definitely are not suited to running the business. You are awesome at what you do, but that doesn't mean you should technically be the business owner. In fact, funny enough, I say
Well, you
this
can be the
about,
business owner, but don't have to run the business.
well, yes, sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
that there is
Well,
that.
I mean, there's a lot of
clarity.
people. I mean, if you look at Forrest Gump, the following, he's not the guy, but he owns it all. So
Mhm.
just like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
guess it's
you've got to have a lot of awareness in yourself, or invest in a mentor that's going to be able to help guide you through that process and go, right, okay, where's the skill set? What do you want to be looking to achieve? What kind of lifestyle do you want as well? And
Yeah.
how much input do you want into the business?
Yeah, but I also think because everybody's making it so hard for themselves and they're so lost in every single bit of business, that everything just seems an uphill struggle. So, with a lot of the clients we're working with, once we get the clarity on who you are as a trainer, what it is you're trying to do, who you're trying to reach, how can you do that in the best possible way? How can we create an offer that works for everybody? Suddenly we see this haze clearing in front of them, and they're like, oh, it's actually not as bad or hard as I thought it was, because everything now makes sense. All the jigsaw pieces are being put together in a way where it works, and I can see the picture now. Whereas if you're stabbing around at, like, trying to do a bit of this, trying to do a bit of that, and everything just seems so difficult.
Well, if there's any dog trainers out there, or my listeners that know dog trainers that need some help, how would they get hold of you guys?
I'm going to leave Vicky to this. She's the person.
Well, I mean, there are lots of ways, but the
Yeah.
simplest way might be to just go and listen to our podcast. So
Ah.
the podcast is called Let's Talk Dog Business, and there are we get lots of messages that people just love Jo and I. It's very much like the premise of this podcast, really chill, really laid back, really conversational. And we have lots of episodes where it's just us talking about our experiences and, like, what we're going through with our own clients and things like that in the industry. We also have some amazing guests on as well from all different types of industries, all different perspectives, and so there'll be something for everybody. We also have people that aren't just dog trainers listening. So we've also got clients that are dog groomers and walkers and boarders, have kennels and things like that. So anybody really that's got a dog business, the podcast should help. So I think that might be the first port of call. And then caninebusinessacademy.com is where you can find anything else about us if you want to know more.
Thank you. Well, as always, business is business, no matter what the niche is.
Yay!
Yay. And also, you can find their information in the show notes below. And then to wrap this up, if you guys have liked what we heard today and have questions, want to discuss it further, different ideas and topics on how you can become a hard hat to CEO, look in the show notes below, sign up for a 10-minute call, and we'll make that happen. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.